Welcome on in, Eagles fans, to episode 46 of the No Huddle Show, our Philadelphia Eagles podcast right here on NJ.com. I'm Joe Giglio, joined by Elliot Shore-Parks, who covers the Eagles for NJ Advanced Media. He was there yesterday at Lincoln Financial Field for a 29-10 victory. Mark Eckel will join us a little bit later on in this episode. The Eagles go to 1-0, and the story now is, well, the biggest story around the Eagles. That would be Carson Wentz, the new franchise quarterback who excelled in his first game. The Eagles have a victory. Wentz looked tremendous, and we have a lot to talk about. Elliot, how are you?
Doing good. Excited to actually have a quarterback to cover that is capable of making plays and running an offense. So it should be a much different season than expected.
Yeah, things are different now, Elliot, and that was just a tremendous performance by Carson Wentz. I mean, the numbers were off the charts. His ability to make plays were off the charts. And, I mean, it's crazy because a week ago, we were wondering, is this kid even ready? And, I mean, forget being ready. He showed he's more than that. I know the Browns aren't a good football team. They're a bad football team. But I think it's hard not to be really over the moon right now for Eagles fans because they watched a young quarterback who they knew so little about, and he played. I mean, really, it's hard to find a flaw in anything he did on Sunday in his first NFL game.
Yeah, I mean, I think today there'll be a lot of talk amongst Eagles fans about perspective and on a national stage too about, just how much to read into this and the fact that it's the Browns and it's just one game and all that. But, not to brag, but I was the one last week that said they've upgraded at quarterback. So I'm not surprised at all by what I saw. And speaking to players in the locker room afterwards, they weren't surprised either. So I don't think this is the case of, if like Cardell Jones did this yesterday, like a player that went late in the draft, then I think you could say, wow, not many people saw that coming, or, this is a surprise. But look, Carson Wentz was drafted number 2 overall. And I know there was a lot of debate as to just how good of a prospect he was. And I think part of that is because Mariota last year among Eagles fans was viewed as such the perfect quarterback prospect that it's hard to think that anybody could almost be as good of a prospect. But the fact is, a lot of draft analysts said that Wentz was just as good of a prospect as those guys. Now, not everyone agreed, obviously, but the idea that Wentz could come in and play right away isn't exactly a crazy one. I mean, this is why teams trade up for quarterbacks, and this is why he went number 2 overall. And I'm sure the Rams, are probably regretting the decision, as of now to let him go as Jared Goff's going to be inactive in his first game. But, so is there perspective on it? Absolutely. I mean, he has a long way to go. I mean, remember, Sam Bradford was at one point a number 1 overall pick. But as you tweeted yesterday, Joe, I mean, even Bradford in his 6-year career never had games as good as Wentz did yesterday. And yes, part of it's the Browns, but most of it is just that Carson Wentz, as the Eagles put it, is smart. And he's able to dictate, what happens before the snap. And that's 90% of winning in the NFL. That's why players that are probably more talented than Wentz, like a Michael Vick, and those type of guys, weren't able to achieve prolonged success is because of the pre-snap stuff. And it seems like Wentz already has that down to a T.
So what impressed you the most yesterday when you watched Wentz out there doing what he did? Was it his ability to make those checks to the line of scrimmage? Was it the mental stuff, or was it some of those physical plays? I mean, the thing that stood out to me physically was he seems to have that ability, Elliot, to put the football where only his guy's going to get it, or it's going to be an incomplete. And, sometimes those are going to be tough catches. We saw Ertz make one. We saw Matthews make one, Algalor. But when you do that, I mean, you're going to avoid mistakes, and it's like he could put it in that perfect spot. What was it for you that impressed you the most out of all the different things he showed?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot. I mean, as I mentioned before, the pre-snap stuff I think is extremely impressive. An analogy that I've been thinking of over the past, since the end of the game is, and Philadelphia sports fans will relate to this one, is Ben Simmons, the Sixers' number 1 overall pick. He's an elite passer, and that's something that when you talk about like court vision, that will always translate. Whether he's in college, whether he's in the pros, whether he's been in the league for 2 years, 15 years, you're not going to lose that court vision. One day you might lose the ability to jump really high, or you can't shoot as well because you can't follow through like you used to be able to. But you'll always be able to pass really well. So when it comes to Ben Simmons, you look at him and you say, okay, he'll be successful. He'll be really good just simply because he can pass it really well. And I think with Carson Wentz, the pre-snap stuff is something where I don't see that going away. And that's why yesterday I think was extremely encouraging, because even though if Wentz would have came out yesterday and just ran past all the Browns defenders, then you say, okay, it's the Browns. If, he was throwing to guys wide open, like that time Nick Foles had 7 touchdowns, then you say, okay, it was just one of those days. But the fact that the reason Wentz was so good was because of the job he did before the snap, that's something in year 2 he'll be able to do, in year 8, year 9. I mean, that's just football knowledge. And, it sounds simple, but it really, really isn't. I mean, a lot of quarterbacks cannot handle what goes on before the snap and diagnose it properly. So I think that was definitely the most encouraging thing that Wentz showed yesterday. Now, on top of that, I mean, I could, the list goes on, but obviously I like the fact that he took a lot of chances. There was one pass he threw in a very small window to Jordan Matthews, who was between 2 defenders, and Matthews kind of caught it as he went down, and Wentz got hit as he threw it. He showed the ability he's going to take chances, and he also showed that he has the ability to stand in there even when the pressure's coming. I mean, I don't think at all yesterday he never flinched when the blitzers got home close to him, and he was still able to complete passes. So he looked extremely calm out there.
He did, and it didn't seem like the moment at all was too big for him. And I think his teammates clearly noticed that. I mean, one, the way he played, but 2, all that other stuff. I mean, what were they saying afterwards, in the locker room? I know the Browns were very complimentary, but how about his Eagles teammates? Because I feel like a lot of times veterans will try to maybe tone down a little bit of the hype because they don't want it to get too much for the kid. But I didn't get that sense yesterday, just listening and seeing some of the quotes that you guys had come out of the locker room. It felt like, his teammates, who probably didn't know that much about him either, in terms of, because all the practice time he missed in the summer, they seemed like they were really, really impressed.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Peters, who is not really one, he doesn't speak very often. And when he does, he's not one that just provides sound bites. I mean, when he says something, he really believes it. And he compared him to Aaron Rodgers yesterday. He said the way Rodgers, moves, the way he can throw the ball when he moves. And then he said straight up, if we give Wentz time back there, he'll pick apart any defense. And so, I mean, and the funny part is, and I didn't think this, but the funny part is that when they traded Bradford, a lot of people were like, oh, well, what about the veterans? What are they going to think about this move? And one of the literally the only name people could ever really bring up was Jason Peters, a guy towards the end of his career that wants to win now. And he certainly seems to be a believer in Wentz. And I guarantee you he thinks this team is better now with Wentz than they were with Bradford. Because, I said this on the podcast last week, but players recognize other players that are skilled better than anybody else, better than, scouts, better than all that. Players can recognize when another player is talented. And that's really what the players said yesterday after the game is, look, we knew that this guy was good. Everyone said just because he was a rookie, we weren't going to be able to compete, but they never believed that. They saw what Wentz could do throughout the offseason. So I don't think they were surprised at all. And, I don't think they view this as just one game.
No, I don't think they do either. And it seems like he's won that locker room over really with the way he played on Sunday against the Browns. So, Wentz was outrageously good. The Eagles, just beat up a Browns team that looks to be one of the worst in the NFL. How do we kind of equate that? I mean, the Browns look to be a really, really bad football team. We knew they were going to be, but I think seeing it against the Eagles, it probably made it hit home more. Do you kind of think about that when we talk about Wentz and how much we should get excited here and how much everyone should be excited? Or that was an NFL game in your mind and he performed that way? I mean, how do you kind of equate what he did compared to, the Browns are really bad?
Obviously, the fact that it's the Browns is going to be one of the main reasons everyone points to the game and goes, okay, well, how much can we take it seriously? Because the Browns, I think yesterday, clearly, I think it was shown that they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. But the thing is, I mean, the passes that he completed, it wasn't like there wasn't good coverage on them. I mean, the pass to Jordan Matthews, he put that really where it doesn't matter where the cornerback was going to be. That only Matthews was able to make a play on that. The one to Aguilar, I mean, look, I don't know how many cornerbacks Aguilar is going to beat deep this year. But the fact is, he did beat him, and Wentz put it where only he could catch it. So I do think Wentz showed signs of no matter what defense he faces, when there are plays there to be made, he's going to be able to make them.
And he made a ton of them on Sunday. We're doing this podcast, a reaction podcast, on a Monday morning after an Eagles 29-10 victory over the Browns. They're 1-0. Carson Wentz shined. We're talking about it here. And we promised Mark Eckel would join us as well, as always, on the No Huddle Show. So Mark Eckel joins us now. So, Mark, we've been talking here a little bit about Who else? Carson Wentz. Give us your big takeaways after the rookie's debut.
Played well. Played very well. Surprisingly well. I mean, even though Doug Pederson said he wasn't surprised, I think most of the country was, because mainly not because you don't think Carson Wentz is going to be a good quarterback, but I was surprised that he played that well after not doing anything in preseason. I mean, I think what we're learning more and more, and I've learned it every year for the last whatever many years, preseason is so meaningless. I mean, why even have it? This kid played 2 quarters against, I would bet you maybe 1 or 2 of those people he played against are even in the league right now. So he really did nothing in preseason. And then he didn't even practice because then he got hurt and missed about a month. And he goes out and puts up 101 quarterback rating in his debut. So what does that really tell you about preseason football? So, but anyway, I mean, like Elliot just said, he made some very good throws. Yeah, it was against the Browns. The Browns, one of the worst teams, Elliot. Tell me a team even close to being as bad as the Browns, because they are so bad. But that doesn't matter. He still had to throw the ball. I mean, it's not like the Browns dropped 6 interceptions or something. No. I mean, he made good throws. His receivers played well. I was pretty impressed with the fact that his receivers, after dropping his first pass, I believe Jordan Matthews dropped the pass on early in the game, played pretty well. Aguilar had a nice game. Matthews had a nice game. Zach Ertz had a nice game. DGB only had 2 balls thrown to him, caught them both. Not a big factor, but did some nice things. So yeah, I mean, it was a very good opening day win.
Yeah, it was. The Eagles have a lot to be excited about with Carson Wentz. And Mark, I think you came on at a great time, because I wanted to kind of shift it a little bit to the other person with the Eagles, the other very important person with the Eagles, making his debut on Sunday, Doug Pederson. Now, look, I remember all 3 of us, when they first hired Doug Pederson, were surprised, I think, to put it mildly, talked about the coaching search, what they were trying to do there. And I think, to be honest, a lot of people over the course of the offseason and then especially into the summer were just probably unimpressed or just waiting to be impressed by Doug Pederson. First game, a victory. I thought he used Wentz well. I thought the play calling was really good. Elliot, what did you think about Doug Pederson? And are you allowing yourself to maybe open your mind, change your mind? Because, I mean, none of us really on this show, at least, were really like, oh, wow, they got Doug Pederson to be the head coach. But so far, at least through one game, I thought he did a really nice job.
Yeah, I've been kind of changing my mind on Doug over the past 2 weeks. I mean, just on Sunday, if you just want to talk about just against the Browns, I thought he did a great job. His initial drive, which is, the plays he scripted, really set Wentz up nicely to, kind of ease himself into the game. I think, he ran it 5 times and threw it 4 times or something like that. I mean, there was a really good balance.
The way around, like 5 passes.
Right. But either way, I mean, the balance was really good to start and really throughout the game. But, I mean, if you look at Doug Pederson as a whole, since he's been hired, I mean, what has he actually done? Not what he said, which I understand is part of the job, but what has he actually done that makes you think, this guy is not going to be a good head coach? I mean, I think there's been some communication issues between him and Howie at times. I mean, Doug will say one thing and then another thing will happen. But in terms of actual in-game coaching and how he's handled some tough situations, I think he's actually done a pretty good job. And, I don't think this is an example of us being wrong about Doug. I think the Eagles were equally as skeptical about Doug. He was not their first choice, probably wasn't even their second or third choice. So this isn't, the Eagles saw something in him that nobody else did. This is maybe the Eagles are lucking out a little bit, and maybe Doug is going to turn out to be a better head coach than literally everybody thought.
He might be. And for the Eagles, that would obviously be a tremendous thing for them, because then they get a head coach that could help put the franchise back on track here. Mark, what did you think about Doug? And how has your mind either changed on Doug or been affirmed on Doug or kind of just open to what he's going to be as a head coach? I thought through one game, I thought he called a good game offensively, especially on Sunday.
Again, I'm not going to – I'm not as I'm going to wait and see a little more than just one game. But but if we're going to base it up so nothing's changed, he hasn't done anything wrong as a head coach since through preseason, for that matter. He has, he's done everything. I mean, I'm not saying, wow, this is the next Vince Lombardi here, Bill Belichick, by any means. He hasn't shown me anything that says he's above and beyond, a great head coach. But he hasn't messed up at all, which is important. Yesterday, he was the best coach on the field. He outcoached Hugh Jackson, who everyone loved and raved, and this is the guy that's going to turn the Cleveland Browns around. I mean, Hugh Jackson looked lost out there. That fake punt was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. And that was a big play in the game. That kind of turned the game around a little bit. Then Pederson, well, there's two things that stuck out to me yesterday from his coaching. One was, I thought he was going to be very conservative. I thought with the rookie quarterback, who, like I said, hadn't played at all in preseason, I didn't expect a balanced attack that we saw. 34 passes. I'm sorry, 34 runs.
37, yeah.
Well, 39 passes because he was sacked twice. So, but still pretty balanced. I thought we was the other way. I thought he would run the ball. I thought the Eagles were going to run the ball 40 times, and Carson Wentz would only throw the ball maybe 20 times. I thought he would be very conservative, put the kid in kind of really, make it easy for him. No, he didn't. He let the kid play, which was good, and it worked. And then the other thing, he showed me some guts, and I wouldn't have done it. I would not have, and Eagles had that 4th and 4 to 40, and it was still kind of close at that point. I thought that was a huge risk going for it there. I would have punted the Browns deep. I would have had Donnie Jones come in and punt them down to the 1 or 2 yard line again, and just let my defense stop the Browns again. I would not have gone for it there, and he did. And I was ready to rip him. I was ready for that play to fail and say, look at this guy, no, but they picked it up. And when I still wouldn't have done it, but he did it and it worked. He called a good play, pass to Zach Ertz, barely got the first down, but he did. And then the next play, bomb to Aguilar, touchdown, the game's over. So that play alone showed me that this guy's not conservative at all. He's not going to be a conservative, he, as a matter of fact, we had 3 years of Chip Kelly, who I thought was misconstrued as a rambling, gambling. That was the rep that Chip Kelly brought with him from Oregon. That you remember when he was hired? Oh, the Eagles are going to go for 2 points all the time, and they're going to go for it on 4th down. And
they'll never punt. That's what everyone said. They're never going to punt again.
Chip was pretty conservative for the most part. He went for that 2 points once early on, when he didn't have to, and never did it again. Rarely went for it on 4th down. I think I wrote a story last year saying the Eagles go for it less on 4th down than the NFL average. So Doug did not show me any conservatism.
Yeah, I agree, Mark. Doug was much more aggressive than I thought he was going to be. I think it paid off for them there with the big play, and now we have an Eagles team that's 1-0, and I think naturally the expectations and the interest and the excitement's going to explode here because it's week 1 and we're all going to overreact. So I want to gauge from both of you, did Sunday, a 29-10 win over the Browns, who we know are awful, did that change anything? And not just for Wentz, so I think we're all rightfully excited about, and Pederson, who we rightfully should be given the benefit of the doubt to as time goes on. But this team, right? And let's go on this premise, and we'll start with Elliot and then we'll go to Mark on this. The premise that a lot of people had, and I don't know if I truly agree with it, but I kind of understood where it was coming from, that, all right, this team plays good defense. If they run the ball, if the offensive line is better than last year, and they get decent play out of the quarterback position, which we were talking about with the idea of Bradford being the quarterback, then why not? Why can't they be decent in a mediocre division? Now you have a quarterback who shows much better skill set than Sam Bradford has shown in a long time. So let's take it from there. Could the expectations change for the Eagles now, Elliot, or are you not ready to go there after 1 week?
Well, here's what I would say. What are we overreacting to? They beat the Browns by 19 points. The Browns are a bad team. The defensive line I didn't think played that well. And, people think they'll actually only improve. The receivers dropped some passes. The offensive line was okay. They did a decent job running the ball. I thought the cornerbacks didn't play well, but that's kind of what we thought. And the safeties made a few plays. So, I think this is kind of, and the special teams had made a few plays. I think this is kind of exactly what we thought the Eagles would be. The only difference is they're doing it with a quarterback that I think it's fair to wonder if, he could actually win them a lot of games this year, as opposed to if they win that game yesterday, with Bradford, I think then we just go, oh, well, we already know this quarterback's not going to do it in big games, right? But now you have a quarterback where you can say, all right, It looks like all the other parts of the team that we thought were going to be that are kind of what they are. Maybe Wentz, can elevate this team another 1 or 2 wins. And, a lot of people had this team at, 6, 7, 8 wins. I know Mark had him at 4. So, but I mean, like,
one of them.
but I mean, if Wentz can win this team 2 more games than we all previously thought, in what should be a bad NFC East, I mean, that is the difference between, finishing third and playing for the division title the last game of the season. So I think, the difference between the best team in this division and the worst was never that huge. And in the NFL, if you get a quarterback, it changes literally everything. So, I don't think there's much overreacting going on. It's just wondering if Wentz is actually as good as we think, then it does change a lot. It changes a lot with this team.
Mark, how about you? Are you ready to say maybe that there's something here and we could have a different kind of season than we thought, or is this just one game in your mind?
It's just one game against the worst team in football. Team that probably isn't going to win a game this year. That's the worst. The Browns are not even an NFL team, right? I don't think they beat Alabama. I really don't. I mean, that's bad. They're bad, and they're poorly coached. Hugh Jackson's a fraud. No, they're not. I mean, again, I'm not taking anything. It's a win, and you got to play. Eagles beat them, and they beat them, soundly. That's nice. But no, I'm not going to change any of my opinions based off that game. I mean, Carson Wentz played well. Good for him. He's got 15 more times to try to do that. Elliott says he's going to win some games for him. Guess what, Elliott? He's going to lose some games for him too, because he's going to be a rookie that he's going to see stuff he hasn't seen from a real NFL team.
Yeah, but all quarterbacks lose teams. I mean, how many quarterbacks in this league can you go into the season and say confidently they won't be the reason their team loses at least one game?
Handful.
5, right?
Yeah,
okay.
That's about right.
Well, I'm just saying I'm not going to change everything based off the fact that the Eagles beat the Cleveland Browns.
I'm not changing everything.
I think they might go 16-0. You're right, because they were 1-0, so you can't go 16-0 unless you go 1-0. But
exactly, they're not going to go 16. But I mean, my point is, I'm not saying I think they're going to make the playoffs. But you
kind of alluded to that.
Well, okay, this is what I'm going to say, right? If Carson Wentz plays at that level he played yesterday,
yes. If his quarterback rating at the end of the year is 101. They'll be a playoff team.
Okay, that's all I would.
It's not going to happen. I think defense every week. He's not going to.
I agree. He's not going to face the Browns even every week. But there's not a lot of great teams in this league. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but I'm saying in the NFC East, if he can win them 2 more games than Sam Bradford would have, that is the difference between not competing for the playoffs in the NFC East and winning the division.
The Eagles, Bradford competed for a division last year, but 2 weeks ago they had it in their hands.
Right, but then in back-to-back home games they got demolished. Right, so my point is, keep
something else in mind too when you have your expectations here. Lane Johnson is going to get suspended sooner or later.
True.
That's going to be a big loss.
I'm not changing my win. I predicted them to go 7-9. I'm still sticking with that. I'm not changing that off yesterday.
Right.
My only thing is, I think it's foolish to say that what you saw yesterday doesn't impact it at all. I mean, he came out and he played really well. I think he showed. What yesterday was because it was against the Browns. What did he do yesterday that you don't think he can do against other teams?
It's not just him. It's not a one-man team here.
I know it's not, but it is in the NFL. A quarterback is.
If the Browns don't drop, again, they won the game, and I don't want to take anything away from this Eagle win. But God, you guys are making it sound like the Browns were terrible.
The Browns were bad, but the offense still put up 27 points.
They put up 29. Well, 27. What might say the last 7 shouldn't even count because the Browns went. Come on, the Browns gave them the ball to 6 or whatever it was when they won.
Whatever. I mean, then you can go through every score in the NFL and decide which.
Oh no, not like that.
Well, I mean, we didn't watch every game yesterday. We don't know how many points were the result. My point is this: how many times this year before yesterday, if you would ask me, well, all right, I'll put it this way:
I thought they'd beat the Browns. I never thought they were going to lose to the Browns.
That's what I was going to say. Before they traded Sam Bradford, if you would ask me how many times this year the offense would score 27 points, no matter how they got those points, scored 27 points, I would have guessed maybe 2 or 3 times.
Well, they scored a 4 or 5 last year, didn't they, with Bradford?
Yeah, they had a better offensive, whatever. But the better offensive coach in my mind. But whatever. My point is, we said before the season that the skill position players were an issue, the offensive line was an issue, the running backs weren't great, and I think there's still some truth to all that still. But the fact that they put up 27 points, you don't think that's a little encouraging?
Yes, it was. Yes, but I also know this. Every week is different.
No, I know. I agree with
I
that.
mean, I'm just saying. Listen. I hope Carson Wentz does put up 101 quarterback rating. It'll be fun. It'll be great. I don't think he is. I don't think his final quarterback rating is going to be 101. I think
all right, what would you say you think his quarterback rating can be?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen him play one game under 101. How's that?
All right. I guess what I'm saying is I think he showed yesterday I don't think he's going to be a disaster. I think he's going to be really good this year.
Not going to be a disaster. No, I don't think anyone thought he's going to be a disaster. I mean, he's the number 2 pick in the draft. He better not be a disaster.
Plenty of quarterbacks taken high, don't. Yeah.
Some have, some haven't. I mean, I don't think. Let's just say this. He's got to be this good. Not right away, but this is what he has to be for this trade to be good. I wrote that the night that they drafted him. He's got to be Donovan McNabb.
Yeah,
and it's a nice start. But let's let it. Let's watch it a few more times.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying he's gonna. He's already a Pro Bowler, but I'm saying of everything we've actually.
They called him Aaron Rodgers this morning.
I didn't call him Aaron Rodgers. Jason Peters called him Aaron Rodgers. And Jason Peters, in theory, you would think knows a lot more. I mean, he's seen him a lot more than me and you have. But, I mean, look, I'm not saying he's a Pro Bowl already, but I'm saying I think yesterday he showed some very encouraging signs that would make you think that he's able to keep this up.
He was tremendous. I mean, he really played well for this game. And now let's move this thing forward, because I think it's an interesting conversation that, maybe the Eagles are better than we thought. Maybe Wentz is going to be really good. Maybe he's surely going to struggle at some point. But how about everyone else? Because it's easy to forget about everyone else from the game on Sunday, because it was Wentz's debut. He was tremendous. It was Pederson's debut, and they won the game. Who else stood out? And really, I guess the question is, what concerned you? In a 19-point win, not much concerns most fans, because you overlook all the little negatives in a big positive. But if we were to look at that, they won by 19. But if there's something that stood out that, okay, they have to fix that if they're going to keep winning games here, what was it, Elliot?
I think the cornerback play. Leotis McKelvin was really bad before he got hurt. I don't think he's hurt seriously. I bet he'll play next week. But, I mean, he did not play well. Nolan Carroll didn't play bad. I mean, he had a really bad missed tackle, actually. I'll say that led to a Browns first down. The long pass he gave up to Terrell Pryor, I thought the coverage was good on that. That's just Terrell Pryor making a great play. But the cornerback play was not good yesterday. And that's a concern because, going forward, you're going to face some pretty good receivers in these next few weeks. So the cornerbacks are going to have to be better.
Mark, for you, what was the concern?
Yeah, that was when I did the grades Monday morning. I don't grade individually. I grade, offensive line, pass rush. The lowest grade was pass coverage. I only gave them a C. I mean, it wasn't. Their overall numbers don't look bad. They held Griffin to a 55.0 quarterback rating. They did get burned for 2 big plays, but it's not like the Eagles' defense forced the Browns to drop those passes. If the Browns receivers catch those other 6 passes, it could be a little bit of a different game. I'm not saying the Browns would have won, but it wouldn't have been as convincing of a win. That's for certain. So yeah, the cornerback. I think the running backs. Ryan Matthews got 22 carries and got 77 yards, and he ran hard. He ran tough. That's a 3.5 yard per carry average. Kenyon Barner got the ball 4 times and gained 42 yards. That's a 10.5 yard average. I like to see a little more balance. We talked about the balance of the offense that Doug balanced run pass very well. I'd like to see more of a balance of Matthews Barner. I'm not saying Barner should be the number 1 guy, but it shouldn't be 22-4 in carries. I'd like to see Barner get anywhere between 8 and 12 carries next week.
Yeah, I think that's fair, especially if he's going to run anything close to that. And it probably helps keep Matthews hopefully a little healthier, too, for a long season. All right, so we're doing this podcast on a Monday morning reaction after a victory. It's going to be a week of excitement around the Eagles, and then they don't play again until a week from tonight. Monday Night Football in Chicago. You guys will be there next week. Now, because you were at the game, because we're all following this game, probably haven't got a chance to dive into the Bears. But just just in theory, Elliot, this game next week, I think it becomes fascinating because the Eagles have a chance to get off to a 2-0 start. But I think it's a test. Not that I think the Bears are great, but they do have good receivers with Jeffrey and Kevin White. They have a quarterback who can make plays down the field, and they're going to be at home after losing their first game, so they're going to be desperate. I think this is a fun test for the Eagles. I mean, if they get through next week, all of a sudden we do have something to talk about with a 2-0 team.
Yeah, I think this is a really good test for the Eagles. I mean, Monday night, home opener for the Bears. Like you mentioned, the Bears coming off a tough loss, too. I mean, like a last-second loss to the Lions. And not to bring it all back to Wentz, because obviously the cornerbacks, like we just said, will have a better test. But it'll be interesting to see what Wentz can do. I mean, it's funny that after he's going to be the topic of, national conversation among sports fans all week. And the fact that the game is on ESPN, I'm sure they're going to be talking about him a ton to hype up their game. So, I mean, the pressure is going to be on him to perform again. I mean, he'll definitely be the biggest game he's ever played in, I would say, in terms of just in terms of exposure. I mean, it's not for a championship, so I will say that. But like, just in terms of people that will be watching it, this will be the biggest stage Wentz will ever play on. So it'll be really interesting to see how he does. And I mean, if he does good next week and turns in a game like he did yesterday, I mean, then things are going to get really interesting in terms of just the exposure and the national conversation this guy's really going to be a part of at that point.
I agree. 100%. This is a big game. And Joe, I agree 100%. The Bears are an okay team. I mean, they're not. I don't think they're not a playoff team. I don't think anybody's talking about the Bears going to the playoffs. Although James Cratch picked them to be a wild card. But they're home on Monday night, and I've always thought that was a tough. It's always tough, I think, to go on the road on Monday Night Football. If you look through that's when up, and I think the Bears are a favorite. So, but yeah, it's a tough spot for a team, for a young quarterback, for a young team. So yeah, and where I thought Hugh Jackson did an awful job. I'm a big John Fox fan. I think John Fox is an excellent head coach, a very good defensive coach. His coordinator is Vic Fangio, who's also very good. So they're going to watch film of him now. Now there's something to watch on Carson Wentz too. Keep that in mind. So I expect the Bears to come out with a very good game plan, and this will be a test for Doug Pederson as well, to put Wentz, to call the right plays against Fox's defense. And if the Eagles come out with a win next week and we do the podcast, I'll be a little different. I'll be saying different things.
You won't be the buzzkill next? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not just saying. I can't get excited over beating a team that I don't think would win the SEC.
I know. Yeah, if they win next week, then I think they'll lose to the Steelers. But if they win next week, I mean, look, it's a tough game, but
I think the Bear game could be just as tough as. Even though I think the Steelers are better than the Bears, I think the Bears on the road on Monday night is just as tough as the Steelers coming here.
That's interesting.
There. I think it's close.
It probably is. I mean, just because the desperation factor. And I'm just thinking about it now. I mean, if the Eagles do win that game on Monday night against the Bears, and let's say the Steelers, who they play after we record this, but if they're 2-0, that would be a fun atmosphere at the Link in a couple weeks for a 4:00 kickoff. Eagles Steelers. Possibly a pair of 2-0 teams. I mean, a lot of work to get there.
I don't think the Steelers are going to be 2-0, but I also don't think the Steelers are coming off. The Steelers play the Bengals next week.
They do.
I like playing a team after they just played their arch rival and toughest opponent.
Yeah, and got beat up a little bit by a good Bengals.
Right, because either way, if the Steelers, I don't want to. We're looking too far ahead now, but if the Steelers beat the Bengals, there's that letdown factor. They just beat their rival. Now they're going to a non-conference game, a little bit of a letdown. And if they lose to the Bengals, chances are they got beat up too, and they might come in with 2 or 3 guys hurt.
Look at this. We thought this season was going to be boring, and now we're looking ahead to a fun Week 3 game. We have Week 2 next week. We'll be back after that game. You guys will be in Chicago for it. Elliot, as always, thanks for doing this.
No problem. Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks to all of you for listening to episode 46 of the No Huddle Show, our Philadelphia Eagles podcast right here on NJ.com. You can subscribe and listen any way you want. Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, however you want to listen, you can listen, and leave us a rating. It helps the show grow. We'll be back next week with episode 47 after the Eagles and Bears.